last thing we're gonna add to this is, sorry.
Go.
Thank you.
You got it.
All three of our lasagnas should be saucy.
It's gotta have layers.
Needs a pasta element.
And I think the top needs to be crispy.
Today I'm gonna be making traditional lasagna, and I'm actually drawing from our very own BA's Best lasagna recipe, which was developed by none other than Chris Morocco. When I think of lasagna, I think of those classic alternating layers, and that's exactly what I'm going for.
I'll be making a modern lasagna. I think this is a modern take because of the way I am kind of forming the lasagna. The layers are sort of vertical as opposed to horizontal. Visually, I think this is going to stand out from the traditional version.
I will be tackling the experimental version. So a lot of the elements that I'm gonna be using in my lasagna are things that I've not seen used in lasagna before. All I'm hoping is that somebody is able to take a look at what I've made and say, oh yeah, I get it. That looks like lasagna to me.
Pasta's role in lasagna is really the same as pasta's role in any other pasta dish. Can't have lasagna without it.
It is the base that's going to carry all of your cheeses and your sauce.
It's really there to provide support and allow you to kind of build up in the casserole so that it's not just, soup on a plate.
Today I'm gonna be using fresh pasta. The real benefit to me, I think, is the flavor and texture unparalleled. Because these are fresh and pre-sliced, I don't need to cook them. You generally need something that's a little soupier or saucier when you're using raw pasta because the noodles will absorb more of it as it cooks. If the whole point of this was to showcase how amazing a traditional lasagna can be, it's gotta be fresh pasta.
I'm gonna use dry, flat pasta sheets. My layers are going to be vertical, so I need something sturdy to hold everything up and make sure that they don't collapse on each other. The difference between fresh and dry pasta is that texture-wise, it has more bite to it. A fresh pasta is fresh, and that's why it's softer. I don't think you're gonna get the same amount of chew that you would get from a dry pasta. It should taste like the sea. I like to separate each sheet. After they're done boiling, I'm gonna shock them in ice water because I want to immediately stop the cooking process. I tested this recipe one time at home and I used just a regular store brand pasta. I'm using a fancier brand of pasta today, so I hope that I get the same texture. It's raw. Okay. What happened with the store-bought pasta was that it was like this when it was hot, but then when it cooled, it relaxed and it was more malleable, and that didn't happen with this. So This is going back. They all need to go back. I cannot bend this even when it's cold. It'll break. The ice water made the pasta too hard. So this time I'm just using cold water, no ice. I am finally happy with the texture of my pasta. They are ready.
I feel like I'm on record as having said that lasagna needs to have pasta in it in order to be considered a lasagna, and I do not have that in my experimental approach. So I've really broken my own rules here. I decided to make a cracker instead of pasta, but I decided to make a cracker that's as much like pasta as you can get. I'm leaning on a style of cracker called carta de musica, which is very, very, very thin. So we're gonna make a dough using semolina flour. It's effectively pasta dough, right? But instead of boiling it, we're gonna bake it. I was inspired by freeform approaches to Napoleons that I've seen. A Napoleon is like a very classic pastry that's layers of puff pastry and pastry cream, and sometimes with a little bit of finishing icing. I was taken with the notion of building a lasagna freeform on a plate, and there wasn't really a great way in my mind to achieve that kind of lightness using a boiled noodle. I want to roll it through a pasta machine to very, very thin sheets. It's just making it so that the dough is going to want to be like perfectly flat and even, which means your cook time, whether it was in water or whether it was in the oven. Oh God, I gotta fold. I wasn't paying attention. We're falling apart. I am cutting our cracker at 3.5-inch intervals. We're gonna dock these. This is to control how much they bubble. So this is a tester. It's tender. The flavor is good. It's gonna give us like our tender yet super crunchy stackable element that's gonna look and kind of, stand in for pasta. Sorry.
You're fine, you're fine.
Did I not mention that I would be baking like individual crackers in your oven while you need to be at your
chose this
stove?
life.
Sorry. Look at that. Color's looking good. I think we're gonna be able to get a nice stack 4 or so high, which will get us some height on the plate. Feel good about that, right?
I'm going to be making a Bolognese for my sauce. So Bolognese is a type of ragu or meat sauce. I'm using a mix of pork and beef. What I'm going to do is start by forming all of the meat that I'm going to use into meatballs. I'm going to sear those off, get them nice and brown. As opposed to trying to get a large amount of loose ground meat to brown, we're going to cook the meatballs kind of spaced apart. And that way we sort of really ensure that they're going to brown rather than steam and turn kind of gray and drab, which is like not what we want. So this looks very nice to me. You can see it's beautifully browned on all of its infinite sides. I'm gonna get these guys out onto a clean sheet tray, and then I'm gonna go in with my second batch and repeat the exact same thing.
I'm gonna be making a spicy vegetarian tomato sauce. Spicy red sauce is not that unusual, but I haven't seen it in lasagna, which is why I thought this would be a great idea. So I have a 12-inch skillet here. I'm gonna use this to make my sauce, and then I'm gonna use the same skillet to cook our lasagna in. My sauce is going to have some crushed San Marzano tomatoes, onion, garlic. We're gonna saute that in olive oil. There's a little bit of cumin and some red pepper flakes for a little kick. It's not gonna be in your face spicy. It's a way of adding more flavor to the tomato sauce. There's no meat, which is why I'm using kind of crushed chunkier tomatoes. So like that's going to add that texture to it. Ooh, I can taste some of the cumin. It's a little bit of kick to it. Watch out, Chris.
I heard watch out, Chris. What am I watching out for exactly?
The spice.
Oh, yeah, the heat. There's like Rachel levels of heat, and then there's like regular people levels of heat. You just, you gotta know where to sort of distinguish between the two. Heat, like actual chili heat, is something you do not see in a lot of lasagna. I don't think you can have like a really intensely spicy sauce. Like you need a balance, you need a counterpoint.
The sauce is done. Super quick, super flavorful, doesn't have to simmer for hours. We want this to have quite a bit of moisture because that's how the pasta is going to cook.
So my sauce is actually gonna be a mushroom terrine. So a terrine is a gently baked, cured meat preparation. However, in my case, I'm gonna be using cooked mushrooms.
I would not consider a terrine a sauce.
I don't quite understand even how that works.
Hear me out. One of the things I really like about ragu bolognese is that the meat over the course of hours breaks down until it practically melts in your mouth. I wanted a similar effect with mushroom. So the base of the mushroom terrine is resting on a foundation of cooked mushroom duxelle. Mushroom duxelle is just a finely chopped mixture of mushrooms that is cooked down with other aromatics. I'm gonna be using a combination of maitake and cremini mushrooms. Cremini mushrooms give you a lot of bulk without necessarily tons of flavor, whereas maitake mushrooms have incredibly intense, fill your mouth mushroom flavor. Already, there's so much flavor there. Like it takes hours to get to that point where that ragu is gonna be ready. We have one duxelle mixture that's relatively finely chopped. I'm gonna do some more mushrooms that are gonna be actually quite roughly chopped. But I do wanna have some bigger, more recognizable pieces of mushroom in that matrix. I'm gonna put some of this other shallot in with our big pieces of seared mushroom. It's just there to back up the mushroom. So we need some water to soak our porcini mushrooms in. Porcini has a lot of concentration, and when it's dried and then reconstituted with water, you get like a mushroom tea from it. We want to hold on to that. There's a lot of flavor there. The actual dried porcini itself, we're gonna combine with heavy cream and blend in the food processor. Heavy cream is gonna bring a lot of fat to this mixture. So we're gonna go 3 whole eggs, small amount of ground meat. It's gonna be a little bit of insurance that the terrine's gonna hold together. So we need to chop our prosciutto. A cured pork product is gonna give you tons and tons of flavor. A little breadcrumb's gonna help keep the terrine together. Cayenne in a small quantity is just gonna kind of lift the flavor a little bit. Moderate amount of nutmeg is a component that you often find in traditional bechamel. So this is our sauteed pieces of cremini and maitake that I'm now gonna fold into the terrine mixture.
Our next stage is we're gonna start building some flavor. The onion's going to bring some sweetness, it's really gonna anchor the flavors. The celery has that super herbaceous note. Then the carrot is super sweet. We're also going to be adding some garlic, some pancetta too. It's just going to help amplify that meat flavor and add just a little bit more richness. The pancetta, which had all that fat, all of that has released into the pot. And so we have a really nice base for sweating all of our vegetables. And now you can see immediately once I add the veggies, all of that brown stuff at the bottom is lifting up, which is great news because it means that all that flavor we spent so long working so hard to build on the bottom of the pot is now being scraped up into our sauce base. I would say tomato paste is one of the most important ingredients. It's essentially super concentrated tomato flavor. I'm going to add white wine, going to act as our deglazing agent. In go my crushed tomatoes. Every layer that we add to this sauce, we're reducing it down to its most intensely flavorful elements. I have a cup of chicken stock and a cup of milk, adding that really extra layer of creaminess. So I'm just going to bring this whole thing to a simmer and then it's gonna go in the oven. My oven's at 225 now. You just wanna penetrate it with really gentle heat so that it is really kind of melting by the end of it. Melty, not dried. We're gonna check on that in maybe an hour.
This is a terrine, which refers to the mold. So I just want this to be a really even layer so that I can slice through it and not have to do like any trimming. Water baths suck. You are literally guaranteed to burn yourself with hot water at some stage of the process. The point of a water bath is that you are cooking things at very gentle heat. So it's a way of cooking things very slowly, gently, and evenly.
Okay, let's see. You can see that the liquid in the pot has reduced down significantly. We're just gonna go in and break apart the meat until this basically becomes a chunky meat sauce. It's really striking to me how you get both the deep flavor of the tomato paste and that bright acidic sweetness of the fresh crushed tomatoes. So this is perfect.
I'm gonna lift the terrine itself out of that pan of water. It should indeed look like not that much happened. We're gonna let this cool and also press it, which is gonna compact it just slightly, and then let it cool completely before we slice it. I think vegetables and lasagna can make for an uneasy partnership in certain cases.
But I think they can add tons of flavor and texture.
While there is a small amount of vegetables in my sauce, I am not going to be doing a separate vegetable layer. What I'm going for, and you'll see this when I build the lasagna itself, is super homogeneous layers. Having a vegetable in there would kind of throw that off. Totally fine, we'll just leave it out.
For my veggie option, I'm gonna do sliced zucchini. It is super mild. It wouldn't overpower my lasagna, but it would add a good amount of chewiness to it. Like we had with the lasagna sheet, you want it to be malleable and not too thick because we're gonna roll it up like that. Zucchini has a lot of water content, so the salt is going to draw out some of that moisture.
Depending on how spicy her tomato sauce is, you may want a more kind of like neutral vegetable flavor in there just to kind of offset it.
I'm gonna let this hang out for 10 to 15 minutes and that's gonna draw out even more moisture.
I'm gonna be shingling and cooking king trumpet mushrooms to use as a garnish. I even wanna try activating them together. Activa is this substance called transglutaminase, which binds proteins together. So I'm just doing like a super thin layer over these as an experiment to see if we can get this to hold together. The intention is for this to be a single sheet of mushroom that kind of rests on top. So that's option A, okay? Option B, if that doesn't go according to plan, is going to be to cook those coins of mushroom freeform and then arrange them over the top of the lasagna to serve it. It's almost like a mushroom chip, you know? This is just a possible garnish. Nothing's like hinging on this, but I think like we've got something that's like workable. At this stage, like these have bonded together. It's now like functioning as one unit, but will it do so after we cook it? The mushroom, you know, shingle, let's call it, is so far more or less holding together. Yeah, see, it's kind of coming apart. The only chance it has at this point of holding together is to cool. We're gonna set it aside. We're gonna also set aside the freeform mushroom garnish. Is it even gonna work? We'll have to see.
There's something really quintessential and delicious. I'm so distracted by these window washers.
Oh wow, that's weird.
Veggies can come and go, meat can come and go, like all that stuff can come and go, but like cheese, you cannot have lasagna without cheese. You just can't. It's not only delivering texture, it's also just delivering that creamy, super rich flavor that I feel like we all know and love from lasagna. For my cheese layer, I'm gonna make a bechamel sauce with Parmesan. It's essentially milk that has been thickened with a mixture of butter and flour that are cooked together in what's known as a roux, and then we'll add some grated cheese and some seasonings. I
am delighted that Christina is employing a traditional bechamel that for me defines lasagna even more so than any kind of tomatoey sauce or any particular kind of noodle.
I like to start by adding the milk kind of gradually, and this just helps minimize any lumps you might have in the finished sauce. So while my milk is coming to a simmer, I'm going to grate my cheese. I am using a nice big hunk of Parmesan. There's something really lovely about having Parm be your only cheese flavor because it's so aggressively nutty and fragrant and salty. And you can see the cheese is also making it immediately thicker. I want it to have the consistency of something like queso. I want it to be smooth and thick, really glossy, and most of all, I want it to taste really good. So at this point, all we need to do is season it. Pinch of nutmeg, little pinch of cayenne, really good amount of black pepper, some salt. So let me give this a taste now. That's very yummy. I'm gonna add the tiniest bit more salt. Okay, that is done. Oh, very nice, very nice. Okay, the last thing I'm gonna do is wrap this with some plastic wrap so that the bechamel doesn't form a skin. And then we're just gonna let it sit until we're ready to build our lasagna.
For my cheese, I'm going to be doing a spinach ricotta mix with lots of Parmesan. So I have some ricotta, a little bit of Parmesan cheese, which is going to add like that salty bite to everything. And then the blanched spinach gets folded into this mixture and then finish it off with some mozzarella. When I was talking to Chris, he made that super clear too. He's not a fan of ricotta-based lasagnas.
Ricotta, for me, can take on a little bit of like a spongy, kind of grainy texture when it's baked.
This is not going to be grainy. To make it a little bit more airy and creamy and lighter, I am whipping it in a food processor. And I'm also adding milk, which is going to give that really silky smooth texture. Those extra little steps done to the ricotta is really what makes it modern.
Is that your ricotta?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. No judgments. For her context, ricotta makes a certain amount of sense because of the way she needs to assemble her pinwheels. I don't think you'd be able to do that with bechamel, right? It'd be trying to eat a soup sandwich.
That made so much of a difference. We're gonna fold in the spinach. I'm using a little bit of nutmeg in my kind of ricotta cream mixture because in like a traditional classic bechamel sauce, there is nutmeg and I wanted to pull in some of those elements. All right, I think this looks pretty great.
For my sort of cheese element, broadly speaking, I'm going to be doing a mushroom sabayon. I'm also going to be making Parmesan creme patisserie. So sabayon is kind of a world apart from cheese, right? But it's going to give you something creamy. It's going to give you something similar from the standpoint of the mouthfeel. I just want the flavor to go way in the direction of mushroom. So we're going to start with the mushroom sabayon. A sabayon is a cooked egg yolk mixture that becomes very light and very foamy. I'm going to take egg yolks, just enough sugar to give it some stability and structure. I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of the dry marsala. I'm going to put in our mushroom seasoning that I reconstituted with porcini liquid, and then an extra tablespoon of porcini soaking liquid. That mixture is then going to be whisked over a hot water bath so that it heats up very gently as it incorporates air as I whisk it with a hand mixer. See how it's foamy, but it holds its shape? It's actually got some structure to it. Will it keep that structure? I don't know. Something just weird happening with like the egginess with the sweetness and then the mushroom and the marsala. The marsala is giving this introducing this fruit element that's maybe not working. So we're gonna go again on this. All right, I think that's about as far as I wanna go. This is the one with marsala. This is the one just with mushroom. I'd really love to be able to pipe this mixture. So to that end, we're gonna try to thicken part of it with gelatin. I just wanna distribute it really evenly. It's a little sweet, but it's mushroomy, it's foamy, it's beauty, it's grace. Let's just keep moving. I see the Parmesan creme patisserie as kind of a stand-in for bechamel. It's not trying to do anything radically different from what bechamel would do, but just rather function better in this assembly, in this context. So this is a starch-bound savory custard lightened with whipped cream. So I've got milk. I'm gonna put some nutmeg in, not too much. I'm gonna heat this up. The yolks are gonna give richness, they give flavor, they give color. So I've got cornstarch and I've got flour, and I'm gonna whisk them. This is called tempering the eggs. It's working the milk in very small additions so that they gradually heat up and they don't cook and scramble. With starch-bound custards, you wanna bring them to a boil because that's what activates the starch fully. I think Parm is the ideal cheese for this. It's salty, it's intense. So we're doing a little pinch of cayenne. Again, not to make this spicy, just to brighten the flavor a little bit. This is gonna have a gluey consistency the way it is right now. Whereas if we lighten it with the whipped cream, it should kind of net out in a really pleasantly light, creamy, more melt in your mouth kind of way. It gives you the flavors and the sensation of bechamel, but without being super cloying. I think we're done with the bechamel situation. I think we're ready to put this thing together.
I'm going to be making 6 layers. I'm going to be doing thin layer of bolognese on the bottom of the pan. You want something on the bottom layer that's not pasta. You don't really want it to be the pasta because it's gonna wanna stick. Next, we're going to do a layer of pasta. Then on top, we're gonna do our bechamel. We're just trying to make sure the pasta has some insurance against drying out. Then I'm gonna do bolognese pasta, bechamel bolognese pasta, until we reach just up to the top of the pan. When I think of lasagna, I think of those classic alternating layers, and that's exactly what I'm going for. Should I talk about how I chose the wrong pan? In an ideal world, your 5 or 6 layers of pasta would come all the way up to the top of the pan. It will be totally fine. It's just much less dramatic because it looks like I just stopped after I made half a pan of lasagna. So the last thing I'm going to do before we get this in the oven is wrap it in foil. I want to preserve all of the moisture. Oh my God. Okay. All right, so that is going in. It's at 325. We're gonna check it in about an hour and take the foil off and finish baking it.
I'm ready to assemble my lasagna. We're gonna do a layer of pasta, then some zucchini. So I'm gonna do 2 on each sheet. And then next, I'm gonna do this ricotta. I am using mozzarella as well because that's going to add some of the ooey gooey cheesiness to the lasagna. It's also going to add some stretch and pull. So carefully roll away from you. You don't have to make it too tight. For starters, I like to place this fold kind of towards the outside because that's gonna support it and not let it open up on you. For the skillet, I wanna make sure that there's a layer of tomato sauce on the bottom so that the pasta doesn't get burnt. The crispy, crunchy burnt bits of a lasagna are my favorite part. And in my version, everyone's gonna get a little bit of that. I'm making sure that all of the pasta is covered in sauce because I want enough moisture to make sure that it's cooking all the way through. She's beautiful, she's my child, and she's ready to go in the oven.
Oh my God, I don't understand how you're supposed to get things in and out of this oven. Ooh, very nice, very nice. I am going to crank up the temperature to 425. And then once that reaches temp, the lasagna is going to go back in uncovered until the bechamel layer on top is really brown and crisp. How do people do this? Oh my God.
Yeah, assembly is frankly going to be a bit tricky. Part of it is I really want to try to get some clean slices of the terrine that I'm then going to crisp in a skillet so that you almost get this like double concentrated mushroom flavor. We'll have cooked it once on the way to becoming a terrine, and then we'll be cooking slices of the terrine again to intensify their flavor and texture still further.
Okay. Woof. All right, let's port it over here. Wow. Okay, so this is done. All right, there we go. Nice and layered. Love that. All right, that'll be our piece.
Looks so good. Oops. That was a save there. I'm so glad I didn't drop that. I think this looks so good. I'm very happy with it. There's also some like crusty charred tomato bits on the side, which I love. And as this lasagna sits, you know, the sauce is going to thicken a little bit. Ooh, the cumin is really coming through. Okay, so my modern version of this lasagna is ready. I think it looks perfect. It turned out really good. I can't wait for Chris and Christina to taste this and tell me what they think.
So I'm gonna do like 3 pieces of terrine, I think, and in 2 layers. This layer is only gonna repeat 1 time. So this is our mushroom sabayon. I keep coming back to this idea of wanting the lasagna to kind of play with your expectations a little bit. Like I want it to kind of read as somewhere between sweet and savory. I want it to look a little bit like a Napoleon. I want it to stand high off the plate. I need a lot of things to work here in order to pull this off. Okay, well, there it is.
Behold, BA's Best Lasagna by Chris Morocco. Took all freaking day.
Yeah.
But shall we dig in?
Yeah.
I mean, the layers are perfect.
Such good definition.
Yeah.
Such clean slice. Kind of can't believe the amount of browning you got across the top of the bechamel. This takes me back.
To what, 2016, 17?
Yeah.
It's delicious. It's so cozy and comforting.
The flavors are just completely melded in this beautiful way.
This feels extremely traditional to me. I love that even though you use fresh pasta, there's still enough bite.
I'm so happy with this. I mean, obviously, like my heart is gonna, leap when it sees this interpretation, because like that's exactly what I want from lasagna, and that's why I made the recipe that way.
I feel like I just got an A.
Yeah.
A++.
Oh.
Here it is. My modern take on lasagna.
It feels like you made perfectly individual size pieces of lasagna, you skip the part in traditional lasagna where you're cutting through a big pan of something.
Yeah.
Because each one is sort of its own little layered universe. I'm eating like the very inside, the way you should eat a Cinnabon, but it's like demonic here.
The heat definitely shines through, but it's not excessive. Considering like this is like a totally vegetarian lasagna, correct?
Yes.
You know, and I think like when you take like that meaty element out, you have to bring something that has like a certain depth and weight to it, and like the heat is taking it there.
The flavor is really satisfying. I had never had spicy lasagna before. The way that the zucchini and the spinach offer that kind of clean flavor that cuts through the spice, it tempers it a bit, and then you have the creaminess of the ricotta. It just all works.
Yay.
I would say like maybe if there's one thing I achieved, it was like it is maybe experimental. I wasn't trying to make something that's just like weird for its own sake. Making a
Oh,
sabayon.
don't give yourself such a hard time. I think it looks very appealing. In fact, if you serve this to me at a restaurant, I would say it's a wonderful dessert course.
Right.
Thank you for the mille-feuille.
Right. No, I know. So the intention was like you'd be able to push a knife or like a fork through it. And it
Oh,
would,
wow. No sound.
See, that's like pretty
Is that
fun.
what you wanted?
That's what I wanted. Like you needed to be able to eat this.
Oh,
with
you can see
a
the
fork.
layers so well.
Oh my gosh.
That
this is
looks really good.
These mushroom strips are really good, by the way.
The cracker sort of held up. I mean, it softened.
I like that it was soft in the center and you get some of the crisp on the side.
I think your creme pat is really good.
It's really good.
Whipped cream was very smart, I think, too.
And I love the pate.
I think it's never what I would expect to eat for dinner if you told me we were having lasagna for dinner, but it's also something I could never have come up with in my dreams.
Huh.
So I think that's pretty well worth commending.
Would you call this lasagna? If
No.
you ah.
It's crackers. But they're tasty. Should we wave? Yeah. Did you see he like didn't even know you were there?